So American banks are in trouble, China's system is shaky, markets are in turmoil. How is the rest of the world faring? Argentina is struggling, with inflation touching 100%. In Lebanon, the currency has plunged to 100,000 against the US dollar. In the UK, the government will be spending more than $100 billion to mitigate the cost of living crisis. And New Zealand is on the brink of recession, with its economy shrinking further. Here's a report.
It's a difficult time to be living in. A host of nations are going through their worst economic crises. Food and essential goods have become expensive. Inflation is soaring. The pandemic still haunts the world's supply chains. And the war in Ukraine is making it worse. It's taking a heavy toll on the world's economy. But some countries are suffering more than others. Let's start with Argentina, where inflation has surpassed the 100% mark. You heard that right, 100%. Argentina is said to be on the brink of recession. It's scheduled to have a presidential election this year. Consumer prices went up by 102.5% in February compared to last year. This is the highest spike after 1991. The prices of consumer goods have more than doubled since last year. And multiple factors have contributed to this rise. Adverse weather conditions, a prolonged heat wave, and a severe drought, to name a few. In Lebanon, the currency is sinking. It's a challenge to barely survive in this West Asian country. It's been torn by years of war, political strife, and a failing economy. The Lebanese pound, also called the lira, has sunk to a historic low. The currency is officially pegged at 15,000 to the dollar. But on March 14th, it was trading at 100,000 to the dollar in the black market. Lebanon's financial system is described as a national Ponzi scheme. The country borrows money to pay existing creditors, much like Pakistan. So its parallel financial system, the black market, is taken more seriously. 75% of Lebanon's population lives in poverty, many of them without basic amenities like electricity and water. The soaring inflation is making matters worse.
Where can we go? Where can we go? They should come take us now. They should just kill us and throw us in the ocean because we can't handle it anymore.
Ramadan is coming now, and we will be forced, in what they call the month of good and blessings, to beg. Today a piece of lettuce costs 50,000 pounds, and I am retired, and my pension is in Lebanese lira, and I can't even pay my rent. What's my solution?
Reports say people in Lebanon are now resorting to extreme measures, some even taking their lives. In the United Kingdom, even the fittest are struggling to survive. The cost of living crisis has gone on for months. Now the government has announced a budget to mitigate it. London will spend about $114 billion as part of the government's cost of living budget. The UK's economy is struggling, and so are its people. They'll continue to get subsidies on energy consumption. The government will also cut taxes for businesses. Corporation tax will be cut by £9 billion annually for the next 3 years. But these measures are the short-term fix. At some point, the government will have to pull back. Meanwhile, in New Zealand, a recession is much closer than many had anticipated. The economy has shrunk by 0.6% in the last quarter of 2022. And when the economy shrinks for 2 successive quarters, a country is officially in recession. Quite a few sectors have taken a beating. 9 out of 16 industries in New Zealand saw a decrease in activity. Manufacturing was down 1.9%. So was retail trade and accommodation. Arts, recreation and other services took a 4.2% hit. Transport, postal and warehousing went down by 3%. These are just 4 examples, but they show the big picture. Countries are suffering and economies are under pressure.
Meanwhile, the fighter jet politics has taken an interesting turn. Ukraine is finally getting fighter jets. It's been asking for them for a long time. The West refused, but now Poland and Slovakia have stepped up. They've been the most vociferous allies of Ukraine. And now they've set a precedent. Will other Western partners follow suit? Also, how will Russia respond? Because this is one of Putin's red lines and it is being crossed. In the next few minutes, we'll discuss first the decision from Poland and Slovakia. They've sent two messages. To Russia, they're saying, we're not afraid of you. And to their Western allies, they're saying, we'll go it alone. Poland says it will give Ukraine over a dozen MiG-29 fighter jets. 4 of these will be delivered in the next few days. That should serve Ukraine's immediate needs. The remaining jets are being serviced and checked by Poland. They'll be dispatched after all operational and safety checks are completed. And these checks are necessary because Poland is not giving Ukraine brand new fighter jets, or even those which make up a crucial component of Poland's own air force. Poland is giving old jets. Some were waiting to be dispatched to the scrapyard. Now they're being diverted to Ukraine. Listen to what Poland's president had to say.
These are the last years of their being in service according to the technical possibilities, but they are in most cases still in good working condition. First, literally within the coming days, we are handing 4 planes, if I remember well, to Ukraine, in full working condition. The other planes are being serviced, prepared now, and will most surely be handed over gradually.
That was Andrzej Duda. He said the jets being provided to Ukraine are in the final years of service, which is a polite way of saying they're old and of no use to us. Meanwhile, Slovakia has decided to send all its MiGs to Ukraine. It has 13 MiG-29 jets. It will give all of them to Ukraine. So if you look at the total, between Poland and Slovakia, Ukraine will have a squadron of jets. A squadron has anywhere between 8 to 24 aircraft. In the meantime, Poland will get some new jets for itself. It's buying the F-A-50 planes from South Korea and the F-35s from the US. It is letting go of the MiG-29 jets. Poland got this stock from East Germany. This was after the collapse of the Soviet Union back in 1991. This twin-engine jet was designed in the 1970s. It entered service with the Soviet Air Force in 1983 and has been around ever since. It was originally conceived as a combat-only aircraft, but eventually it became a multi-role aircraft. It is capable of air-to-air combat, providing air support, carrying out reconnaissance operations, and boosting Ukraine's overall air defense. So Ukraine will try to get these jets to perform whatever roles they can. And operating them won't pose a challenge for its pilots because Ukraine, too, had a fleet of MiG-29s. This was before Russia invaded it. Now Ukraine does not have a robust air force that can protect its skies, which is why President Zelensky wants his allies to provide jets. But major Western nations and NATO members like the US, UK, Germany and France have refused to give jets. That's because they fear a Russian response. Remember, the Kremlin has been quite clear on this. Providing fighter jets to Ukraine, or for that matter, any weapon system that has long-range capabilities, will lead to an escalation. That's the red line that Vladimir Putin has drawn for the West. And so far, America and allies have been careful to not cross it. But now Poland and Slovakia have. We're waiting to see Russia's response. And now let's talk about Turkiye. Last month, it was ravaged by deadly earthquakes. More than 48,000 people died. And now it is battling floods. Torrential flooding has turned its streets into rivers. At least 14 people have died, several others are missing. The devastated communities are left to clean up after nature's destruction again. And what about President Recep Tayyip Erdogan? What role will he play in this pre-election test? After all, he's still grappling with the aftermath of the earthquakes. Here's a report. This is what happened to Turkey last month. It battled the wrath of devastating earthquakes. More than 48,000 people died. 200,000 buildings were severely damaged. And tens of thousands of people were left homeless. Now another disaster has struck the same southeastern provinces. Torrential rains have led to massive floods. At least 14 people have died, several others are missing. Floodwaters are surging along the streets, sweeping away cars, splitting roads into two, killing quake survivors living in container homes.
During the night it rained. Our tent was flooded. I was barely able to save my children. We are still living in a tent. Despite all, thanks to God.
The water got inside the tent. We went to our neighbors and we stayed outside. We have small children. The youngest is 12 years old. We went out. Now we are dealing with the tent, throwing the water out. They gave us wooden pallets. We're trying to arrange them. Everything is in the mud.
We came here because of the earthquake. We have been out since last night. We sank to new depths. The children are all outside. Our home was flooded. We have nowhere to go. The tent was also flooded, all covered in mud. But we have to stay here.
Some areas have received a third of their annual rainfall in the past 2 days. Officials say they have never seen flooding like this. Residents have been asked to evacuate their homes. This came after bodies of 5 people were found in a basement apartment. Bodies were also recovered from an underpass. The current dragged away several people while they were still in their vehicles. Those who tried to help others were swept away themselves. Even hospitals were flooded, and hundreds of patients had to be moved away. Dramatic visuals of search and rescue operations have surfaced. More than a dozen professional divers are involved in the operations. But what about Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan? Where is he? He's currently worried about Finland. As Turkiye nears ratification of Finland's accession to NATO, he met Finland's head of state in Ankara. Erdogan sent his interior minister to the flood-hit region instead. But is that enough? He faces elections in the month of May, and state response to natural disasters has become an electoral issue. Opposition leaders are jumping on the chance they are due to visit the ravaged areas and highlight the government's inadequate response. Meanwhile, Erdogan is facing one of the toughest phases of his 2-decade rule. He is battling a struggling economy. The earthquakes have dealt a blow. Their cost is estimated to be $84 billion, which is 10% of the country's GDP. And while the president was still grappling with this, the biggest natural disaster during his rule, torrential floods have poured water over his chances. He has issued several public apologies. He has also said that no nation could have dealt quickly with a disaster of such a large scale. He may have a point, but it doesn't matter given the rising public anger. And if Erdogan does not move quickly to tackle the flood crisis, a bigger political one might be waiting for him.